If that makes it into the podcast, I don't know what kind of show we're running, but...
Education and resources to the trans community. Hello and welcome to Transgender Zone. If I could choose one superpower, I honestly think it would be invisibility.
And that makes so much sense for you.
It really does, because I am such an introvert that I would just love to not be visible, and that I could listen in to what everybody else is saying, and I could disappear into the background.
She just wants to be invisible at all costs. She wants disappear.
Nobody look at me, please.
Don't look at me.
No thanks.
Well, happy Pride Month, everybody.
Yes, happy Pride Month. That's so exciting.
Now,
happy Pride Month.
We are taking a little bit of a risk, and by we, I mean I. Can we get a close-up of that? Can we get a close-up of that? Are you kidding me? Give it. It almost feels completely unnatural coming out of my mouth, but you've ruined me.
God,
you've ruined me. So we're taking a bit of a risk. I am taking the reins for the podcast today so that Victoria didn't have to come up with an episode concept for Pride Month, because why not give her a little bit of a day off for the concept?
I have no idea what's happening.
She doesn't have any idea. She has no idea what's happening. And so it's my risk to take. If you hate the podcast, come for me. Come for me. So what I'm excited to do is I want to take this opportunity to celebrate superpowers.
Okay.
To celebrate the superpowers that are developed when someone goes through transition. And so, honestly, I get to just gush about Victoria today and tell you all the things that I love about Victoria. No, really, though, but as the operations and business person of Transgender Zone over the last 7-8 months, I've got to see Victoria just blossom into such an amazing business leader. But a lot of these things she already had, I'm just seeing them up close and personal, and it's been so much fun to see. And, I started to realize that a lot of those skills were skills that you definitely could learn during the transition process. Things that might naturally manifest themselves as a part of working as hard as you did on your transition.
Okay.
And that, the reason why we're here, developed a theory of mine, which is that the same world that tries to make things harder for trans people accidentally creates people with incredible skills. Skills that can only be built by the unique and diverse challenges that come with transition and the resilience to see the whole process all the way through.
Well, for me, that makes me think about how trans women and trans folks in general are really phoenixes. And actually, it was Ebony, one of our members and our lovely moderator, who said this to me, that trans folks are born from the ashes of their prior selves. That we are, it takes abandoning what we knew and who we knew ourselves to be in order to embrace who we truly are. And you have to delete that person. You have to be able to move on and establish a new human from the ashes of who you once were. And I think that alone is a great superpower, but it requires quite a few, in order to achieve that.
Absolutely. And I think the thing is too, is that there's so many parts of your transition that you get to wear like a resume, where it's like your beautiful hair and your skin and your outfit and your voice and all those things are things that are pretty obvious to other people because they can see them. But what I want to talk about today is the part of the things that you might not see on the podcast. The things that I'm just going to get, like I said, gush about Victoria, the superpowers, and I picked 4 of them that I think you exemplify. But we've also seen in a lot of the community members at Transgender Zone because of the work that they've done on their transition. So if you'll let me.
Yeah.
If you'll let me, I'd love to jump into some superpowers.
Yeah, you know what? I'm excited to hear what you have to say, and I'm excited to also relate it to our lovely members, because if you're unfamiliar, we are the owners of Transgender Zone, which is the online platform that is trans-owned, trans-operated, and trans-only, that provides community education and resources to trans folks all over the world. So I know firsthand, because it is trans-only, I am the one who goes through all the forums. I respond to everything. I'm very, very active on all of our forums. Christopher makes it a point to stay off of those, that it remains trans only. But because of that, I have sort of an insight into our members, so I'm excited to relate it back to the lovely people who are on Transgender Zone.
I agree, and I'm happy to just celebrate my wife, my wonderful
well,
wife.
Shucks.
For Pride Month, I'm celebrating her. Yeah,
You know what? We are very, we're nauseating. I know for a fact.
yeah.
I'm also grossed out by cute couples, so I know very much that we are one of them. But with that being said, I'll hand it over to my lovely husband, Christopher.
Do I get to do the hello that I've always done? Hello. Okay.
Hello.
The first superpower, I'm going to call it the beacon. So I've watched you become somebody that our entire community and so many people in the trans community globally come to when they need support. It's because you have this incredible ability to see and understand what somebody is going through, because you have had such a unique challenge yourself. And one of the things that research suggests is that people who've experienced significant personal challenges develop a certain level of growth and the ability to help other people through really challenging life transitions. So I think we've also seen this in the community, but what the beacon means to me is that you have this ability to pull people in, understand their challenges and their experiences, and really help them as much as they need to be helped because of what you've gone through.
I think, well, that's very nice. I feel like I'll be seeing that quite a bit.
I can feel you uncomfortable
I know,
about receiving the compliment on the thing.
Oh my God. But I do agree that is a superpower that trans folks as a whole have. I'm 27, and throughout my youth into today, even before I came out as a trans person, I was always told that I was an old soul, and that I was I always hung out with the parents at a kids gathering.
I feel that.
I would always be with the parents and sit there and be like, well, Stephanie, listen, you have to talk to your husband and be really honest. When I'm 10, very, very on point for me. But I think the reason for that is that being trans, and especially coming out as being trans and living authentically as being trans, it takes so much introspection, because that's a major change. That's probably one of the biggest changes you can make to your physical form, is to change sexes. And that's a really, really big deal. And it's not something that anyone takes lightly, despite what right-wing media might tell you. Nobody takes this lightly. Doctors do not take this lightly. This is a very serious change, and it takes a lot of consideration. And I think because of that consideration, trans folks, myself included, and so many other people included, have this superpower of introspection and of sort of a greater perspective, not only because they get to come to terms with who they are, but we get both sides of the gender. For most trans folks, we get both sides of the gender binary. And it's not a binary, it's a spectrum and whatever, but to be able to see what it's like to be socialized as a male and what it's like to be socialized as a female is very eye-opening. And I think that's also why trans folks across cultures and across centuries have been revered as being spiritual beings.
I love that. Yeah, the idea of two-spirit in the Native American community.
And hijras, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, depends on what place you are, but there's a different name for that same concept in so many different cultures. But what I love about it too, what you just said with the masculinity, you've been able to help me with my own journey of masculinity in a way that, I don't know if it would be different if otherwise, but you've been able to really understand the challenges that I've been put through based on how I was raised and the culture that I was thrown into. And I think it's just a really unique thing, because it's you kind of know what that's like, but you've socialized yourself as a woman for all of these years, but you can really just grab the challenges that I'm facing and sink your teeth into it a little bit and really get a strong understanding. And I think your journey has really helped you identify a challenge in somebody and feel it and kind of help them push through.
Well, that's sweet. I think trans folks across the board have a very deep understanding of what it means to be socialized as one thing and to be told you have to be this thing. And patriarchy affects us all, negatively affects us all, including men, including cis straight white men. You know, it affects everybody. And one of the negatives of patriarchy that affects men is that the rigidity of you have to be this certain way, you have to be hyper masculine, you have to think a certain way, you have to behave a certain way. And I understand that socialization is tough. It's something that is taught to us from a very young age. And it's nearly impossible to let go of those things that are taught to you. And as someone that has questioned those notions that were taught to me since I was a child,
Yeah.
it feels good to be in a long-term relationship with someone who has questioned those roles in a different way. That you questioned the roles that were handed to you that were hyper masculine. And at no point did you question, am I really a boy? Am I even a man in the first place? It made you think like, well, this masculinity isn't for me. But what kind of masculinity can I build that would build up men in general, but while also building up women? And I think that's a really beautiful thing. And I don't think I would be able to be with someone who didn't have that experience.
Yes. Yes. She's keeping me. She's keeping me around.
That's so funny.
She's very much so keeping me. This ring on the finger, too. So let's jump into the second superpower, because again, we have 4 of them to get through. So the second superpower is what I'm going to call the radar. The radar.
The gaydar? The transstar?
Not the trans. I don't know how you do it, but like you and other trans folks, you just know immediately. Like it's just
Well,
like,
you know
I got
why?
it. I
And
gotcha.
I know we're moving on to the second one, but the reason why we have that dar is because we are hyperfixated on traits that define masculine and feminine skulls and bodies, that we are able to identify someone from across the county.
Can we start a new trend of the like the word dar? Just dar. You know, my dar's on today.
My gaydar, my trans
My dar.
my feminist dar, my Democrat
I'm
dar.
gonna spot you. I'm gonna spot
And
you.
I can spot a Democrat. Okay.
Well, with that said, that is actually a big part of this next thing. So last time I tried to freehand it, I'm going to read it because it's I put some thought into these. I've watched you develop an almost supernatural ability to spot performative allyship and fake support. I've also seen you walk into any room and instantly know who's safe, who's curious, and who might be dangerous. One conversation and you know exactly who's genuine versus who's just saying what you want to hear. And research does suggest that if your safety depends on reading people's true intentions, you might develop what looks like an enhanced social awareness, almost like better pattern recognition in the brain. But I think it is impeccable how well you can spot if somebody's a good or a bad egg. There are so many times where I just have to trust what she says, even though I'm like, I don't think this person, whatever. She can
Guess what? I'm right. Guess what? I'm literally always right.
This is a superpower that pisses her off a little bit, I can tell. But
well, it's
real.
Tough because honestly, I've always seen it as like the gift of discernment, where that's more of a Christian term, but I am very much able to determine someone's true intent right away. And I have a very hard time hiding that when I can see it from a mile away, because I just like, I'm in my late 20s. I'm going to be 30 soon. And I'm like, I just don't, I know I'm young. I'm not saying I'm old, but I'm saying like, because I'm entering my adulthood, I'm like, I don't have space for any of that. Like, I'm so over it. I'm tired of pretending like someone's nice when I know they're not going to be, because I'm right. And the thing is, I understand, like, I'm also mature enough to understand that I have my own internal biases and like maybe my own intimidation or my own, like, I know that there are reasons why I might feel some way that is not necessarily justified, because anyone will have people they just happen to not like.
Or whatever.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
a snap judgment. I think I have such a short fuse for people that are not respectful because I am cis passing. And I say that because I am someone who I'm white. In case you couldn't tell, I'm white. Obviously, you can tell I'm white, but I'm also transgender. And I'm also a woman, and I pass as being a cisgender woman for the most part, and I will hear things from people who will be maybe the nicest people for the most part, but I can tell there's something off, and then I can tell what it is because they go, if only so many people didn't speak Spanish, or if only so many people didn't transition. And it's like, oh, there it is.
There it is.
There it is. Because they feel very comfortable saying things. And look at me. I know if you're watching this, especially if you're in the United States, and especially if you're white, racism is alive and well. And people feel very comfortable saying things in front of people who are not a part of marginalized groups. And that is why it is so important that we have people like Christopher, like me, even though I'm transgender, I'm also white, and I have the privilege, and I'm also cispassing, I have privilege. And it's so important that we use our privileges to speak up for the marginalized. And that ultimately, not to go off on my bleeding heart liberal rant.
It's Pride Month, send it.
Right. But because of that, because I've seen the ugly side, I'm done. I won't sit through, especially now with what's going on in the world, I'm not going to go to, and mark my words, 4th of July is coming up, baby. I'm not. I'm not going to another cookout and pretending like a MAGA hat isn't a swastika. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm just not. And that I'm so far past it, especially being that my community in particular is being very directly, overtly
viciously attacked right now. Yeah.
That if someone wears it around me thinking that I'm just some other person and whatever, even though women, even including white women, including white cis women, are being attacked, I'm done pretending. And that's why I have a very intense sense of justice and an intense sense of discernment to be able to tell who's a good seed and who's not.
If we see that red hat at the party, I got the Harris Waltz.
No, I'm done.
I got the Harris Waltz hat in the car. We're going at it.
I'm leaving. I won't be there.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. And thankfully, we're not around anyone who's tolerant of that. So, I'm saying that figuratively because that's not going to happen. But if that were to happen, I'm gone. I'm just not going to be there because I've wasted too much of my time. And I think that's ultimately what it is amongst trans people, amongst trans folks, that can identify a bad seed that I've wasted too much time. I've seen the soft white underbelly of humanity and I'm done. I'm done. I'm not in that anymore. I'm out and I've paid my dues and now I'm going to be with real people.
And for the sake of, being around people that genuinely support you, love you, and care about you, rather than wasting your time with people who don't.
That's right.
Why waste it? But so we have the beacon, we have the radar. On to the third one. We have the rapid learner. And I think you're gonna appreciate this one a lot. So I've watched you pick up new skills incredibly fast and figure out solutions to problems that stump a lot of other people. You have this bias towards learning and especially doing, just getting your hands dirty and trying. When you encounter something you don't know, you just dive right in. You're like, if I need to learn it, I'm learning it. That's it. It's the end of the story. And it makes sense when you've had to rapidly acquire knowledge in legal, physical, biological, spiritual, all these different things. Mm-hmm. You had to get better at them tomorrow, yesterday. You need to get better at them as soon as possible. And you're definitely training your brain to handle a wide variety of challenges. But this is definitely something I've noticed even in the community as well. It's this MacGyver attitude of you know what? I don't have the resources to do this. I'm making it happen. I don't care. You told me about how when you were a kid, you would use popsicle sticks and yarn to make dolls. But you were you know what? They're not getting me dolls. Yeah. They don't see me that way. I'm going to make them. And I got to say, I respect that so unbelievably much because it's this research PhD attitude. And I've seen you get interested in something and next day You just know, like, you know how to do it. You know how to make it happen.
Well, you and I are very similar in that way. I think it's the
I
sort
get
of
obsessive.
neurodivergence. Yeah, it's the neurodivergence in both of us, but even further than just that, although that definitely plays a role. I think there are two parts that I want to address. One being like the quick learning that, yes, it's important. And I think it's not even, I'm flattered by the superhuman claim of it, but I think it's desperation and I think it's survival that helps us acquire that superpower, because ultimately having these skills is what's going to be able to get us to our goals that much faster. And I think also, while we will typically, like, we will adapt quickly to some new, and I'm saying we, meaning trans folks in general, we will adapt quickly to a new skill set or a new, activity, whatever it is, quickly. But I think it's very important for all of us to acknowledge our next podcast episode is going to be about long-term thinking and settling into a long-term journey. And I think it's important to know that for like makeup and hair, we have the understanding that it's important to get as many skills as you can quickly so that you can start your journey and like continue on and like improve upon it, but also leaving room for learning. And I know for me, I every month on Transgender Zone, I teach gender affirming makeup lessons, and I have every other Tuesday of the month, every single Tuesday of the month after that, I have office hours where we can discuss things. But eventually those topics are going to repeat. Like when I'm talking about highlighting and contouring for a feminine face based off facial feminization surgery, that's going to repeat. But that's so great because we continue to learn. I've been doing makeup for 10, 13 plus years, and I'm still learning. And I think that's really beautiful. I think when you stop learning, it's no more fun. That even Pat McGrath, even Kevin Aquan, even Bobby Brown, all these people that are professional makeup artists who are known worldwide, who made makeup books in like the 90s and are like what people built their skills off of. They are still learning. And I think it's the willingness and the humility to continue to learn and improve that makes us the women and the folks around the world that we are. And I say that because I've said in quite a few previous videos, the reason why straight men are interested in transgender women, for the most part, is our femininity. There are chasers, there are, all kinds of crazy fetishists and stuff, but generally, the reason why straight men are attracted to us is because of our devotion to femininity and understanding that it's going to take time. And usually they are more into the ones that are a little farther along, but it takes some time to establish your femininity. But our devotion to that, not just discipline, not dedication, but devotion to femininity is very attractive. It's very attractive to people in general, even other women that maybe even like straight women are attracted to it because it's pretty. And even if they're not maybe sexually attracted, they are emotionally, visually attracted because of our patience and our humility to understand that, like, yes, I can adapt a skill quickly, but I don't know everything there is to know about it. And there's so much more for me to build off of.
That humility could be its own superpower in and of itself.
Yeah.
But what I find so amazing about these skills, first of all, I just love hearing you talk. But the thing about these skills is that it's not just transition related what they benefit. Like this skill of like learning rapidly applies to us in business. I watch you learn skills and you're like, oh, I know social media, but I don't know how to do this specific thing. Well, you just go learn it.
Yeah.
Like you'll just figure it out. Like doesn't matter what it takes. Like you just figure it out.
Or like Japanese. I mean, we mentioned in a recent episode that like I'm studying Japanese, and it's not like I pick it up any faster than the average person, but I just understand that it's going to be long term.
But you also said I need to learn kanji at the same time, because she's thinking, okay, if the long-term goal is for me to get to a point where I can go to Japan and enjoy myself, but like you have to realize that is unique. Like the ability to say like I'm doing this thing to get to this goal and therefore I'm going to learn the right way and I'm going to do it quick. that is a skill.
Yeah.
But I also think a lot of trans folks, especially the ones that I've met on the platform, I haven't met a lot, but I've met some of the trans folks on the platform, like, they just get to it.
Yeah.
They just get to it. And the other skills too of like being a beacon, that helpful to your family, helpful in your job, all that.
On Transgender Zone, it is really exciting to see the growth in people after my makeup lessons, after my gender affirming makeup lessons, to be able to see them post like, hey, I followed her tutorial and this is what I'm doing now, and I feel so much happier. And someone recently was like, I started adding white into my inner corners so that I can look more awake and even more youthful because Victoria told me to do that. And now I feel so much more awake, and I just think I look so much better because I'm starting to do that. And like, they're eventually going to find things that I didn't see that I'm going to incorporate into my makeup.
Yeah.
That's game changing. And I think that's really special.
Yeah, the community learning is just amazing how fast it scales.
Yes.
Okay, so last one. It's probably one of my favorite ones. Natural leadership. So, I've watched you develop this, like, let's get it done attitude, which we just talked about a little bit. But you've had to coordinate your own transition and like the millions of different pieces that go into it. Doctors, insurance, legal documents, and you've had to do all of it perfectly for it to work. You've become someone who just naturally takes charge because of that. And it's also because like you've done so much successfully that folks want to follow you. And so they just like will follow you over time. But it makes sense when you've been the project manager of your own transition, and you kind of have to be the project manager of your own transition throughout the process. And I've loved to watch you grow as a leader during this, but I think you've always been a leader. And I think some of that has to do with you as a person, but also some of that has to do with the fact that at an early age you were like, okay, I got work to do.
Yeah.
You're running the company that is your transition, that's your life, that's your growth project. And I've noticed that a lot of trans folks exhibit natural leadership qualities. And I see it in you of just saying, all right, well, this doesn't exist. Let's make it. Before we made Transgender Zone, you made your YouTube channel. Why? Yeah. Because you were like, well, no one's sharing this information. I'll do it then.
Yes.
And that's
it's
amazing.
Thank you. And it's out of necessity. I think that's why there are so many trans folks that are leaders. And I think like it's textbook. If you want something done right, do it yourself. That you can just wait for hormones. Like if you were to just start taking hormones and just wait for it to happen, sure, you can wait and things will change, but that's not what's going to get the job done. You're not going to pass just by taking hormones and that's it. That's just not going to happen. For myself, even starting at 14, that's not all that was needed to help me pass. And it took dedication, and it took taking things into my own hands. And that's why I thought it was so important to not only start my YouTube channel, but then to start Transgender Zone, that it's breaking down the gatekeeping barrier of saying like, no, this is only for advanced girls, or like, you can't know this, or I don't want to share the Krabby Patty secret formula. And it's like, no, like we're done with that. We're so far past that point that you have to take matters into your own hands. Even when I was young, before I transitioned, I was the smart kid in the group project that was doing all the work, because that's just, if you want something done right. Well, that's the thing. If you want something done right, do it yourself. I wanted a good grade. I knew I would get it done right. And like, that's it. I'm open to having more people help me. I love help. I love assistance, but you can't count on it being there, because sometimes it's not going to be there. Maybe your parents aren't going to be supportive. Maybe your friends and family aren't going to be supportive, but that's not reason to give up. And that's not reason to stop trying. It will take time. It will take confidence and practice, and a little bit of delusion, honestly.
Healthy amount.
A healthy amount.
Healthy amount of
crazy.
crazy.
A little sprinkling of delusion, because it's going to take some time. And like, you might be looking at yourself like, okay, well, I'm over 30 and I'm a father, maybe, and a husband. There's no way I'm going to be able to advance my transition to be where I want to be. But then you join Transgender Zone and you meet people who transitioned after 40, transitioned after 50.
60.
After 60, and they're living their best life and they're happy. I mean, we have a member who transitioned, I think, like 68 or something.
Yeah, like late
and,
60s.
and she literally looks like she transitioned at like 16 when she was young. I've told her many, many times, girl, you look like you transitioned young, like you're like an elder. But she transitioned after I did, like way after I did. And it's impressive.
Yeah.
It really is impressive. But that just goes to show the dedication that goes in to living your authentic life.
Absolutely. And so I'm just so excited to celebrate Victoria today on this Pride Month podcast. I mean, Victoria is the owner, is the owner, the founder, and the drive behind Transgender Zone. And I think just we're building this and we're talking about transgender topics, but I think also recognizing that it is a trans-only community. And so it's just really special to me to have just an inspiration, just as a wife and as a business partner and all that. So I just hope today we can, celebrate Victoria and also celebrate all the trans business owners
That's so
out
sweet.
there.
That's really sweet. Also, yes, shout out to all the trans business owners out there. If you haven't already, you go ahead and purchase from Jecca Black Cosmetics. Jecca Black is a trans-owned, trans-operated cosmetics company. They're really great, and they're really a big supporter of Transgender Zone as well. So go ahead. It's not sponsored.
Yeah, this isn't sponsored either.
Yeah, not sponsored, but go ahead and check out Jecca Black and Transgender Zone. That part is low-key sponsored, but I also wanted to say, I mean, not to flip the script on Pride Month, but I do also, the reason why I know some people might wonder sometimes, why do we have a straight cis white guy on our podcast, on the Transgender Zone podcast? And like, yes, eventually we are interested in adding a trans man. That's just where it's a work in progress. We got to build up Transgender Zone, but that's on the books. But for now, I'm so happy to have Christopher here because it is so important to have somebody across the aisle that's willing to stand up for us. That it's important that white people show up to Black Lives Matters protests, that white people show up to the ICE protests, that cis people support trans folks, that straight people support gay folks. Like it is, intersectionality is unbelievably important. And that is why I'm thankful to have somebody like Christopher on here that's able to speak on behalf of us and also lift up our voices as trans folks.
And the goal today was just to put Victoria in a position where she could share all the awesome stuff that she's done.
Yeah, but I love you.
Yeah, but I love you. Yeah, but I love you. But with that said, thank you so much for joining this episode of the Transgender Zone podcast.
Thank you so much. And if you're interested in joining the community, you can go ahead and join at transgenderzone.com. You can join for as little as $5 a month, and you get 2 live group vocal coaching sessions every week. You get a live gender-affirming makeup lesson from me, and you get community hour sessions every single week, multiple times a week. It is just so great.
And if you're looking for organizations as a trans person, if you're looking for organizations to connect with for local pride events, we have a massive database that goes state by state, so you can find some organization in your area, whether it's PFLAG, whether it's a smaller local organization, to connect with on this Pride Month and celebrate locally and meet some friends and some community leaders.
That's right. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Transgender Zone podcast. Make sure you rate us 5 stars wherever you get your podcast. Give this video a thumbs up if you're on YouTube. You can see the uncensored full cut over on transgenderzone.com. And otherwise, happy Pride. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you in the community.